Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Grassroots Speak. My name is James Carey and I'm your host. In the wake of the Darwin Robbie sentencing that has raised mixed emotions, two courageous parents have stepped forward to speak about the growing trend of bullying that's prevalent in the Elizabeth School District. I'm here with Ms. Kysha Tucker and Ms. Iris Flores, two parents of children who attend the Elizabeth School District. Ladies, let me begin by saying welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And what's the reason that you guys are here? Tell me in your own words.
Bullying. Bullying on the school property.
Okay.
And the principal writing it off as children just playing, horse playing.
Okay, now, speaking of the issue on bullying, let me get your perspective on the Darwin Robbie. Of course, you know Darwin Robbie was the guy who recorded Tyler Clemente as the Rutgers student. He just received a sentence of 30 days. What was your reaction as a parent?
I want to say that was just giving these kids more of the reason to continue bullying.
That was a slap on the wrist. I was sick to my stomach. How does he get 30 days? Yeah, he wasn't directly responsible for the boy jumping and killing himself, but he was the cause for the boy to think like that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
He should be able to have more time than just 30 days. That's sickening to anti-bullying.
Yeah, well, of course, you know, the prosecution is going to appeal it, which I think they should, because had that been a person of the other skin persuasion, and I hate to constantly use the race card, if that was somebody black, they would have threw the book at him.
Right.
Or maybe how about if it was someone poor?
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, you're seeing it, but the young man is because he's for money, he's college educated, and, you know, his family has money. Therefore, he's able to get away with what he's doing. What's the message to the family that don't have money?
Right.
Absolutely, okay. Now, Kysha,
Yes.
we're going to begin with you. Okay. Please explain in detail what transpired with your child.
Okay, a kid was led into the school 20,
Okay.
and he came up to my son's classroom with a pocket knife, calling my kid out of the room. My kid saw this kid with the knife and he grabbed the broomstick.
Okay.
His teacher told him, put the broomstick down. He said, no, I'm not going to put it down. Security was called on my son to escort my son to the office. Yeah, while he's trying to defend himself.
And what happened with the perpetrator?
He disappeared. A friend of his let him inside the building, and by the time the cops got there, they couldn't find him. They locked the school down supposedly, and they searched the building, and they didn't find this guy. Later on that day, they went to his home, and they had picked him up. Just to let him loose because he was a juvenile, and the mother came in and picked him up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what type of punishment was dispensed to the perpetrator? I mean, he came to the school with a knife. Nothing.
Nothing. Actually, after that incident, a couple more incidents occurred. My son was out at gym. It was a nice day. He was out in the courtyard with the gym teacher and the other students. And this guy and two other guys came over to the gate, and one put up his trigger finger, another put his hand by his knife, and another threw up some gang signs. I truly believe these are gang members that were trying to come after my son. Too much and nothing was done about it.
Now, what grade is your son? How old?
He's in the 8th. He'll be graduating from the 8th in June. He's 14 years of age.
8th grade.
Yes.
Wow. And Iris,
Yes.
provide me some clarity in regards to your daughter's situation.
Well, my daughter was actually in class, lining up to go to her next class, and a young boy wanted to play some game that they were playing in the classroom. But this young boy is really hefty. He's kind of solid, big, football size. And my daughter actually wasn't playing with him, but he didn't care. He wanted some form of way to put his hands on her because from the month of September to October, October to November, he was constantly tormenting her with names, calling her lesbian, you're gay, you like girls. He was allowed to do this to taunt her out of her name, call her names that, you know, really made her feel some sort of type of way. She couldn't understand what he was saying because the way he was saying his accent is so heavy, another girl would interpret. So that's even more humiliating when another child is telling you what someone else is stating. So this young boy, after able to do this for a while, he, on one particular day, chose to want to play a hitting game that they weren't supposed to be playing. They were doing it quietly, and he called her name because part of the game is you call their name, you show the fist. My daughter told him, you better not hit me with that. He disregarded what she said, hit her anyway. When she went to hit him back, he raised his hand, twisted her arm from the back of her neck, smashed her head into the forehead, her forehead into the cement. She dropped, she fell there, she was there, motionless. Therefore, something wrong was going on. No one called the nurse, no one did anything. They waited to see if she would move. After a few minutes, seconds, because they felt like minutes to her, but they were after a few seconds, she was up, she was dizzy, and she was upset, and she went to chase the young boy. At this point, the security guard stopped her, but not aware of what had just took place prior. She got suspended. The boy got rid of as, they were playing. And that was it. I didn't know about it until 8 hours later to another student called me, and I took her to the hospital. She had a concussion.
So let me understand this. Both of your children were the victims.
Yes, yes.
However, the perpetrators, nothing happened to them.
Scot-free.
Wow. Now, what happened when you both of you tried to report the two incidents to your child's respective school administrators? What is?
Well, I was told by Dr. Mosley that it was really nothing he can do with me, that he had to go through the police. And supposedly, he contacted police and brought up, complaints against these children.
Right.
And I was told maybe about a week later that I can go up there and make complaints, which I did.
Okay.
But still, and yet, that was back in February. Here it is May, and I have not received a court date of any. Yes.
So that's almost 4 months, and nothing has happened. You haven't received no notification.
Nothing.
And the case is just sitting in limbo.
Nothing.
For me, I was told that I would have to go to the Board of Education, make out a written report form. When I did get there, I was told by another young lady that works there that I couldn't get any information until an investigation was conducted. I didn't sign a form for an investigation to be conducted, so how are you going to conduct an investigation if it was just written off as horse playing? So I've been waiting for a while now, since the time December when I went to ask for this written form report, and yet Board of Ed has not given me anything explaining what happened to my daughter that day.
And now, Kysha, when you brought it to the attention of Mr. Lyle Mosley, okay,
Right.
he said investigation had to be conducted.
He did say that. He
Okay.
did. He said that the investigation was going through the detectives, juvenile detectives, that he couldn't give me any information as well, and that I shouldn't try to contact the parents or anything on my own.
Why?
When my son
I don't see a problem because we were all grew up here together.
Right.
And if you could intervene and provide mediation, I don't see what the problem is. Wow.
Yeah, it was the one of the children that let the little boy in, the first incident with the knife. When it boiled down to it, I did know his stepfather.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going up, picking my son up from Magnolia and turned around on court, and my son said, "There's Javon's father there." So I pulled over and I spoke to him, and he did. He satisfied me because he brought his son down and he spoke with him, and he said to him, "You better fall back off this little kid." He said he didn't like him hanging around with this other little boy, Devontre or whatever his name is. And I had no more problems with that little boy that let the kid in. But at the same time, I did say to the detectives that I do want to continue with the complaints because they need to learn something from this. I did say that.
Okay. Now, is it fair to say, let me get a spot. I heard both what you said previously,
Right.
okay, at the start of the program. So is it fair to say the Elizabeth School District is unresponsive to complaints in regards to bullying?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, I want to read something to you. Now, this is where it says, Governor Christie signed into law New Jersey's anti-bullying Bill of Rights. The 22-page law, which was inspired by the bullying-related death of Rutgers student Tyler Clemente, redesigns the New Jersey's 2002 anti-bullying law and added additional policies administrators can use to fight bullying in schools. And not only has they passed the law on that, it also applies for school teachers, staff members also. This was introduced by Senator Diane Allen. This is her legislature, where it doesn't just apply to the students. If you suspect a school teacher or administrator that's bullying a child, they could be brought up, okay, on charges, and then if they found guilty, they could be brought up on tenure charges and lose their job. So this doesn't apply to students also.
Okay, good thing that you said.
Okay.
I have another issue.
Okay. Now, legal experts claim the new anti-bullying law is the toughest piece of legislation in this country. Okay. Is it fair to say that the Elizabeth School District is unresponsive to the complaints of bullying, like I asked you
Again,
previously?
yes, I would say that. I have not gotten any feedback or for anything since February.
Likewise, I'm still waiting.
Okay. Now, Governor Christie recently signed legislation creating a $1 million fund to pay anti-bullying programs in schools. The law requires school districts to seek free alternatives for anti-bullying training provided by the State Department of Education and other organizations before they receive any grant funding. Do you know whether or not the Elizabeth School District has received any anti-bullying grant funding?
No, I don't know.
Okay. And the reason I ask you that, because if they're receiving grant funding, okay, and both of you ladies have reported your two respective incidents to the school administrators,
Right.
and nothing was done, and I saw your two emails to Superintendent Pablo Munoz, okay, and you reached out to Lyle Mobley, and nothing was done.
I went up to the Board of Education a couple times, but I was never able to see Jerome done.
Okay,
Yes.
and nothing was done. And if they're receiving funding, they could be they're violating, because you have violated for not properly documenting these incidents. Okay, and so they could lose their grant funding. So that's an issue that we have to look into to find out whether or not the Elizabeth School District is receiving grant funding for anti-bullying. Okay? Correct me if I'm wrong. Eunice Consuelo is the district's anti-bullying coordinator.
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware of that, Kysha?
No, I wasn't. And again, in a nutshell, I was kind of thinking, do they have these kind of meetings and programs for these kids? Because again, you would think that they would do something in the school, within the school system,
Absolutely.
bringing the kids together and talking about bullying and not bullying.
Especially in the wake of the Tyler Clemente.
I have not heard anything. Because honestly, I probably would have showed up with my kid front and center.
Right, right. Now, you've had some experiences with this Eunice Consuelo, am I correct?
Yes, I met with her, and supposedly the best way to resolve the situation at this point in time would be to pick up my daughter 10 minutes earlier before they dismiss, and to allow my daughter to come into class before 7:45. That's the formal way of resolving this situation.
Okay. Now, give me your frame of mind on where you guys at with this now, in terms of you file formal complaints. In particular, you, Kysha, nothing was done. This
I'm
whole
still waiting
process
on
is
the court
derailed.
date. I'm still waiting on the court date. And again, in the beginning, I was picking my son up as well and dropping him off. Yes.
Now, when years ago, they had money for what they call conflict resolution. Now, that's another issue we got to find out. Do they still receive funding? The school district receive funding for conflict resolution? Because as these situations arise, and there's a lot more situations similar to Tyler Clemente in this Elizabeth School District that haven't been reported because some of the parents don't know their recourse. And then you don't have parents who are courageous, like the two of you, and coming forward to speak about this issue. So like, I honestly feel that this incident, your incident, right now is an isolated incident, but once you start unturning stones, you're going to find there's a lot more cases that are similar to yours that don't get documented. Now, Irish, your complaints basically fell on deaf ears until you joined the Elizabeth Coalition for Education Accountability. Now, how did they assist you in impacting you?
Well, I was able to bring a young lady in with me. She was very knowledgeable. I may say thank you for that because she knew more than what I did. And she knew exactly what to say and what to ask for. And I got solutions.
You got a resolution?
I did, yes.
Okay.
So far, the only thing which has not been done yet is that I'm allowed to go with the Board of Education, one of the members, to see another school. Their way of dealing with it is transferring my daughter out to an out-of-district school.
Wow, why isn't the perpetrator being transferred?
Exactly. Now, what happened, speak to that issue. I'm glad you mentioned that, Kysha.
Yeah.
Speak to the issue in regards to the perpetrator. When you brought it to the attention, you were knocking on the doors of the administrator. And you said something to the effect when I inquired previously about what happened to him. You said they transferred him?
They transferred him to another school. Once my daughter's witness came down and spoke to the school principal and stated what she seen, they quietly removed him out of the school. When I came back and asked for my daughter to be removed to a different school only because she was in fear of her life, they told me she could not be removed because they don't do out of school placements out of school. But yet they moved him to another school.
Now, what would you ladies, if members of the Board of Education are listening to this segment, what would you want from them right about now?
I would want stronger policies, in the school as far as bullying, for them to actually make these parents become accountability for their children's action. Don't just allow them to get away with what they're doing. They're not writing out incidents that are taking place in schools. It's being swept under the rug. No one knows that Elizabeth actually has a high rate in school bullying and vandalizing and violence, and we're looking like fools up here because no one knows what we're talking about. And that's not necessarily true. It's not being reported. So I therefore would like for the parent of these bullies to stand up and be recognized that their children are tormenting other children that are not allowing them to get the education they well deserve.
Well said. And for myself, I would like to see a little more security in the building, because the day that the little boy was let into the building, so-called, the security officer that was guarding that door was off. So why wasn't there a substitute guarding that door?
Okay. Now, I noticed you're waiving that police report. That's the actual police report of your son.
Yes, it is.
And I read it, and it's very disturbing.
Yes, it is.
To actually, read something and to think that incidents like this are taking place in our Elizabeth School District. And as a parent, you want some type of resolve. So you go to the individuals who you have entrusted with the safety and the welfare of your children for like 5 hours, and it's basically like they did with Iris. They had you were getting no, she wasn't getting anywhere. And it's sad. And so to this day, no one from Elizabeth School Board has responded to you.
Not at all. Not a court date, nothing.
We know what we're going to do, at the end of this segment, we're going to see if we're going to get that Eunice Consuela. She's supposed to be the anti-bullying coordinator, and we're going to provide you with her number, and we're going to make calls to find out what's the status with this case.
Because I want to say this again, James. This guy is in the same grade as my son. Again, he's getting ready to graduate from school 20. Who's to say they won't meet up somewhere else?
Absolutely.
You know?
That's right.
So I do fear for his safety.
Right. And you should,
I really do.
You should, as a parent and taxpayer, where your taxpaying dollars going?
Right, right.
To pay their salary for them to sit up there and play politics, and who gets lost and caught up in a vacuum is our children.
Yes, yes.
Man, this issue is very sensitive and delicate, and it pisses me off.
Yes.
It does.
Okay.
And I would just want to add to that, then it's not just the Board of Ed, it's also the court system, because if she's stating that this been since
You see it in
February,
black and white.
and she hasn't got any resolutions from it, that means you're allowing this young man to graduate from 8th grade, go on to high school, and continue what he's doing now in high school.
Right.
And to go back just a little bit, during this here situation, I was also told that this little boy was getting ready to enter back into school 20. Now, that might not happen because of what happened, but he was expelled from school 20 the year before behind the same thing, bringing a knife into the school. Bringing a knife into the school.
That goes
It's
to show you that
sickening.
something is inherently wrong, you know, and if they have, I mean, under what they call school law, Title 18A book, you have to report violence and vandalism. And you said that this gentleman was expelled, so obviously it was documented. If it's documented, why was he allowed back into the
Well,
school?
see, he wasn't allowed back into the school at this time. He was coming around the school. That's why they had to bring, they said they brought trespassing charges up on him. He wasn't supposed to be there. But in the midst of all this, I was told by Dr. Mosley that this kid was getting ready to come back into school 20. But because of these reports and stuff, maybe it didn't happen. I'm not sure. I really don't know what went on after that because I was in the dark after that.
What we're gonna do, because I know there's some policy, we're gonna refrain from using individuals' names, okay? But you didn't mention their last name, so it's okay. But for the rest of the segment, we're not gonna mention their names.
Okay.
But you know, I knew that something was wrong in school 20 when I was visiting a local restaurant, and I was there to purchase a lunch, and a law enforcement officer said to me, the situation is out of control in school 20. So I'm like, what? And he said yes, and he was telling me individual who I could speak to, I guess, who's employed there, but I never got around to doing it. And then I heard several other times about the school 20 situation being out of control.
Yes.
And then a mutual friend of ours, who's an former administrator, advised me that I need to talk to you about something that's going on with your son. And then to read the actual police report, I mean, this behooves me. This son's only eighth grade.
Right.
So he has 4 more years of school, and if this problem isn't properly resolved, it could get worse.
Yes, it can. And I'm afraid that because at one point, my son asked me if he could bring a knife to school to defend himself. That was disturbing for me.
Right.
I said, no, you can't, but I'm gonna be there to pick you up and drop you off. For me to give you a knife to go into school, I wouldn't be no better than that parent that her son is doing this bullying.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it is disturbing, very disturbing. And I'm hoping for some resolutions sooner than later.
And we're gonna help you get those resolutions, promise me that.
Thank you.
Iris, your complaints basically fell on deaf ears until you joined the Elizabeth Coalition for Education and Accountability, okay? And I understand that you even journeyed to the State Department of Education in search of answers. We're gonna view that excerpt.
My name is Iris Flores. I'm a parent and I'm a member of the Youth Education Revitalization Committee and People for All This Nice Progress. I have 2 children in the Elizabeth school system. I appear before you to express my concerns in regards to the school district handling and monitoring bullying. My daughter was harassed and bullied for 2 months. During that time, I sent 2 emails to Superintendent Pablo Munoz. Subsequently, my complaint fell on deaf ears. The superintendent forwarded my case to the district anti-bullying coordinator / investigator, Eunice Consuelo, who said the perpetrator was sent to another school and there was no signs of bullying. It wasn't until my daughter was assaulted and I pressed charges to the school district taking me serious. It is a known fact that Elizabeth School District does not report its violence and vandalism, which is required under the New Jersey Statute Title 18A Education Law Book. The Elizabeth School District seems more focused on wasting taxpayers' money on legal fees and fake internal investigations. They conduct a magnificent job at deceiving the public with their public relations campaign that claims that there are premier urban school districts. You have been warned, therefore, if something happens to one of the kids in the Elizabeth School District as a result of bullying, all of you will share the burden. Before I take my seat, what type of intervention are you going to provide for the scores of children who are currently bullied in the Elizabeth School District? These are my letters to Pablo Munoz. This is something that opened another can of worms for my daughter to be bullied by another student on Facebook. Presently, Thursday, the school principal had to call me to come in and take my daughter to the emergency room because they had in her phone that she wanted to hurt herself. I'm afraid for my child. My child is depressed. She doesn't want to go to school, and I don't want her to be another Tyler Clement. I've gone to the Board of Education in Elizabeth. They have not helped me. They don't seem to acknowledge that there's a problem. The principal voted off as 2 children playing and 1 got injured. However, I didn't know exactly what happened to my child until another student called 6 hours later to inform me that she actually was shoved with her hand, behind her hand, and his hand across her neck into a cement wall. When I took her there, she was found with a concussion. She was sleeping in bed for 6 hours, and I couldn't understand why she would not move. I'm concerned for my child. The Board of Education is not taking the initial steps to help me to get justice for my child, and what they do to cover up this was remove the child to another school and then tell me they cannot do anything about it because he's no longer in the school. Yet I asked them to move my child at the school. How can you help me?
Well, we don't have any legal jurisdiction over the Elizabeth disciplinary action, but I think you can pursue it perhaps with your police department.
I did. I filed a complaint against him. But you know what? I had to take those measures to protect my daughter from somebody that assaulted her on school property. When my child was in school, I choose to trust that this principal and that administrator is going to protect my child while she's in there. And then you're going to tell me you have no legal rights or anything? I mean, what is it? What happened if I came home and found my daughter dead? Because I wasn't fully informed of what exactly happened to my child.
Don't give a damn.
Well, it's a really scary situation, and it's probably happening to more kids than we know. And I think you have to get a group of people together and do something about it by publicly, maybe in a newspaper article or in an interview, publicly bringing it to the attention of the city
I
of
have
Elizabeth.
gone to the newspaper, to the TV, media, but they're not going to publicize it. This is the Board of Education of Elizabeth that we're talking about that's corrupted. How am I supposed to get anything out if I don't have anyone standing behind me but just these group of people that came here with me? That's why I'm here before you guys, to see if I can get any more help from you. I still don't know what happened to my daughter. I know based on a child that's a student in the same class with my daughter. But not one adult has came forward and said, this is what has happened. I did what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to go to the Board of Education and report a complaint of violence. You know what? They didn't allow me to do that. Because they said, go here, go there, go to the president, the Board of President, Marie Munn. Where is her office? Where do you go to file that complaint? There was no place to go. November, December, January.
I think that you need to contact your legislative person in your district. I don't know whether it's Senator Lesniak or who the assembly people are. They passed the bullying law. And there are definite consequences if school districts do not comply with that law. So I think the next step would be to contact your legislators and your senator.
The legislator and my senator.
Senator Lesniak, I'm not sure who the legislators are in Elizabeth. Anybody know? I think you need to go and meet with them as a group, explain exactly what you explained here, and ask them what they can do for you.